How you been, Carl?
I've been well, Gino. How have you been?
You know, we always like to talk to you to get an update on what's happening with the Cape Wind project.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm speaking as a private citizen.
Okay.
And on Memorial Day weekend, I want to thank all our veterans, past, present, and future, our brave men and women serving in uniform overseas. Thank them for their service on Memorial Day weekend.
Good enough. So what's happening out there?
Well, lots have happened in the last couple months. I want to start with Cape Wind. Several lawsuits have been tossed out, which they've been waiting for a long time. Federal lawsuits have been tossed out. 2 of them were sent back for administrative review, which is pretty much an administrative move. It's nothing serious. And recently there was a lawsuit tossed out at the federal court in Boston against NSTAR. That was tossed out as well. So things are moving along.
What's NSTAR?
NSTAR is a utility like National Grid off-island that provides electricity to the Cape and the Vineyard.
Why would they throw that out?
Well, the opponents had begun a lawsuit against them, claiming it was unconstitutional, and the state acted in an arbitrary and capricious way by approving the merger of NSTAR and Northeast Utilities. And they wanted to say that, the opponents wanted to say that the state pressured them, put undue pressure on the regulators to approve that contract, the power purchase agreement, because to make it contingent on approval of Northeast. It's a little confusing.
It is. It sounds confusing.
Let me start over. Basically, Northeast Utilities wanted to merge with NSTAR. Northeast Utilities is a big utility in Connecticut. And the state said, okay, we'll merge you with Northeast Utilities and NSTAR. And they were interested in having NSTAR buy some of Cape Wind's power, 27.5%. So the opponents claimed that it was a sweetheart deal, and it wasn't. It was just another power purchase agreement.
Okay. All right, so where are we now?
Well, the project is working on financing. Bottom line is they should have financing secured by the third quarter, and after that they should start upland construction, which is the construction for the cable conduits, bringing the cables from the substation offshore into the substation onshore. And then ocean construction should start early next year.
Isn't there been something in Congress that's holding it up a little bit because the incentives aren't there yet?
Well, Cape Wind, I believe Cape Wind qualified for the incentives, because what happened is that when they agreed to make the production tax credit and the investment tax credit work until December 31st of last year, if you spent 5% of your total project cost by December 31st, then you would qualify for the production tax credit or the investment tax credit. So Cape Wind, I believe, has qualified for the production tax credit or the investment tax credit. It depends which they choose. Now they're separate, okay? You can choose, as a developer of a wind farm, you can choose to take the investment tax credit in lieu of the production tax credit. The investment tax credit will give you 30% of your cost of your project, but you don't get the production tax credit if you choose the investment tax credit. You can also choose to take the production tax credit, which is about 2 cents per kilowatt hour, and it locks in for 10 years, the first 10 years of the project. So you can't do both. You can only pick one.
So when people hear incentive, I think a lot of times it irks them a little bit. Why should we be giving, these utilities any incentive?
Well, it's not so much the utilities, it's the project developers and the owners of the projects themselves who are generating the power. The government has been handing out subsidies to energy companies for decades.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Fossil fuels are subsidized to the tune of about $4 billion a year of taxpayer money. And the production tax credit for wind power is 2 cents a kilowatt hour. And why can't we have a level playing field? Why can't renewables have incentives as well? Why are we giving fossil fuels
Well, why
$4
aren't they?
billion
Well,
a
then
year?
what's the big deal then?
What's the big deal? That's the question.
Why is it
So-
such a hard thing for us to get past?
I don't know, because ExxonMobil makes $36 billion in profit a quarter, and they get subsidies from the federal government. So why can't wind energy and solar power get some subsidies as well? And they're not getting $4 billion. They're getting less. So
Well, they don't produce as much either.
right,
but
they
at
don't
the same
produce as
time-
much. Wind power produces 4% of the total energy in the country right
That
now.
they do that much?
Yeah, they're up. But
That is quite a bit. I
and
didn't think it was that much.
wind power is coming down in price a lot as well, especially land-based.
Okay.
Offshore is still a little bit more expensive because it just hasn't been developed as much. But if you get into the economics of scale with offshore, the price will come way down. But the contracts that Cape Wind has signed are not that expensive. They want you, the opposition wants you to believe that they are, but they're not. If you have 500 kilowatt hours of usage in your house, which is an average house, you're going to pay about $1.46 more per month in power for Cape Wind. And that's less than a cup of coffee. So my
That's good to
house,
know.
I have a small house, and my kilowatt hour usage is about 120 kilowatt hours per month. I pay about $26 in electricity right now. Cape Wind's going to add.
You have a low electric bill.
Yeah, I don't use much.
Wow.
I have all compact fluorescent light bulbs in my house.
My gosh.
So, and my Cape Wind expense is going to be about 36 cents or 35 cents more per month. I'm willing to pay that.
All right. All right.
And you can
It's
also-
good to know, get that perspective.
You know, there's a thing that the opponents don't want you to know is called price suppression. It's complicated because the hourly spot market that all the utilities buy into in the New England power pool, it gets complicated how the power is sold and bought every hour. But basically, they go to this bidding system where they ask for power from power plants all over the region. And this is kind of explaining it in simple terms. But the situation is that Cape Wind can bid zero when they're bidding to sell power because they don't have a fuel cost. And they knock higher priced power plants off the top of the stack, the bidding stack, because they don't have any fuel costs, so they have zero. They have zero cost. And that's important. Now, price suppression has been shown by studies to be $4 billion over the life of the project, the Cape Wind project. So 4 to 7 billion in price suppression, and that saves the ratepayers of New England directly. So we should the lawsuits are being settled. That's good news. No power plant in the history of this country has ever been more closely scrutinized by Cape Wind than Cape Wind has. The Deepwater Horizon rig that blew up in the Gulf of Mexico a couple of years ago, the comment period on that was 30 days, and the review was 17 pages long. And Cape Wind has a review that's 9 feet tall of paperwork. You'd have to have a hand truck to carry it around. It's 9 feet tall. And we're in our 13th year now.
And that is
Now, Cape Wind has all its permits. It has an approved construction and operation plan from the Department of the Interior, has all its state and local permits. And the opposition has stated publicly, William Koch has stated publicly that his strategy is to delay with court action. And I'm sorry to say, but the opposition is failing in their efforts in court. And I think I wish that people didn't have such an emotional knee-jerk reaction to it, to the project, because its benefits are far outweigh its drawbacks.
okay. Well, Carl, it's always
And-
good catching up. Do you have something else you want
I
to?
wanted to say something else as well. Locally here, we're faced with the prospect of a third electrical cable, and the reason for that is because last summer we hit a peak power of 45 megawatts on a hot July afternoon, and the third cable will cost about $60 to $80 million, and the ratepayers are responsible for paying for it with a cable surcharge on our electric bill. And I think it's time for Nantucket to revisit the idea of alternative energy. I think it's time to look at wind and solar. If anybody's been to Barnstable Municipal Airport lately, I think they're building a massive solar farm there. I think I saw the framing being put in next to the runways. I think we should get some leadership from the Board of Selectmen and the Energy Office and the Airport Commission, and we should revisit wind and solar to try to avoid the third cable if we generated some power from indigenous sources of wind. And
right.
I'm talking about the dump, I'm talking about the wastewater treatment plant, I'm talking about all the sites we looked at when we were on the Energy Study Committee. The selectmen have a responsibility to look out for the ratepayers, and they should do their job and they should revisit it. And you can even put, Northern Power 100s like the high school. We all know now what that turbine's like. We lived with that turbine at the high school for 4 years.
Yep.
So we know that there's not a carpet of dead birds around it. We know that it doesn't throw ice. They had a bearing problem last year for a couple of months. They fixed that. We know what this turbine is, and we don't have to put a big 900 kilowatt power wind out there. We could put a farm of smaller ones, and we could put them at the wastewater plant too, because you can put turbines as high as 195 feet, even that close to the runway. So we really should look at this again in the community, because we're all going to have to pay for a third cable, and we're still paying for the first two. And I'd like to see some leadership from the selectmen and the Airport Commission, and a lot of the groundwork has been done already by the Energy Study Committee in the past. Wouldn't be hard to pick it up again. And I think it's time to think about that, because it's an $80 million cable, and if we don't, I don't think we can do it just with conservation alone,
Okay.
So I just wanted to say that as well. But there's a lot of exciting things happening in renewables. Costs are coming down worldwide. Solar panels are coming down in price. There's a lot of it's a really exciting time, and there's people on this island who might be willing to get into a public-private partnership with the town on energy, like Wendy Schmidt. She was involved with the high school turbine. I mean, she's interested in climate change and global warming. We could set this up. Maybe the town could go. They've already gone into a public-private partnership with erosion control. So why don't we think about alternatives again? Is what I would think.
All right, you got it, Carl. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you, Gino.
Good to see you.
Yeah, enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thanks.